All right. Hey, Kunor. No, I cannot because I don't play drop D or 7-string guitar. So you have to do that. Hey, Panos. Well, I have a ton of hybrid picking exercises on my channel. So if you just go to my channel and search hybrid picking, and you'll get a lot of examples. So basically I've been gone for 12 days. I came back a few days ago and I'm just getting my technique back together now, so I haven't been able to play guitar at all. Hey Josh, no, I don't feel I improved in 12 days without the guitar. I just feel rusty as all hell. I haven't been not playing guitar for that long for years, so it was a bit weird. I picked up the guitar, was like, normally, you know, I don't have to think about anything when it comes to where the strings are. It just feels natural. It did not feel natural when I picked it up, so that was kind of weird. Panos, how do you approach playing over the chain? Do you see cage boxes and private shapes, for example? No, I try to, for example, in a blues, one chord here, if you play the A minor pentatonic, you're kind of missing this note, which is probably the most important note, the third, right? And then the seventh is included. But we're so used to hearing this minor scale technically over this dominant chord. So that's just the sound of the blues, and also the getting that sort of quarter note bend. So a great way to do this is to just go through all the 5 boxes, so you have something to sort of relate it to, and then you take each chord tone in turn. It's something that Frank Gambale talks about. He calls it target note practice. So basically, whatever chord tone you decide to work on, that's your target notes. If you go to the 4 chord, now the target note would be, if we're talking about the thirds, so I would go from the C sharp here, and then I need to hit the F sharp here, which in terms of the overall key is the natural 6th. So again, that's not part of the blues scale either. And then you can just improvise, and I think the easiest way to do this is just to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So you can work on just 1 and 4 first, and then you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, you know. So basically, why I counted to 8 here, you can do whatever you want, but I find doing it out of time first can be helpful, just to really have time to make up a better line. So the goal here is to get to each chord tone, you know, to find each chord tone in a natural manner. So you don't go like randomly, you go like, okay, because then it just sounds like you interrupt your idea. But this is really difficult initially when you don't know what the notes are. But why it's good to see it in terms of each shape, though, is that will be the same in any key. So if you learn that, okay, so the major third of the 1 chord in this shape will always be here, here, and here, right? Here if you want. And then the major third of the 4 chord will always be here, here, here. If you then do this in a completely different key, C sharp, for example, you will still have the 1 chord here. And then the 4 chords major third will be here. So if you do that, map that out in each of the 5 positions, that will be much better for you, I think, in general. Then why I don't really like seeing the arpeggios, I started doing that as well. I remember being at GIT and you have to go through like 5-1, and you have to go. Let's see. Right, so you that kind of thing, you would basically make these arpeggio etudes over a standard. But I did that for a lot of standards, but I never really got into the language of jazz, so my playing never sounded like jazz, right? Because this doesn't sound like jazz at all. Right, it's just playing chord tones. And my problem with that approach is that it's so easy to start playing that when you're improvising. So if you do that over a blues and then you go like, okay, 1 chord, you know, that it doesn't sound very good. You're just basically playing almost like a lick, but a really crappy lick over each chord. So I think you're better off having 1 note to aim for that's a really strong note, because once your listener's ear is there, so you go, right, you can play whatever you want in between, as long as you hit the next chord tone, right? And then you can play a lot of stuff in between there, and then you hit the next chord tone. So, and if you listen to all the great improvisers, whether it's blues, jazz, rock, whatever, that's usually what happens. They you know, hitting the 3rd or the 7th or the 9th, whatever, you know, favorite note you might have on each chord change, that's one thing, but that's very limited, right? So you might have several great improvisers doing exactly hitting the same chord tone, but the way that they phrase within that bar until they get to the next chord tone is going to be very different, and that's sort of where the individual style is. But again, to make this really easy, you can just find the notes in one position, like we had here. So that would be the third of the one chord, and then you have the third of the four chord. And I play it here. It's the same note, but at least it's sort of part of the same position. And then just start going like this. You go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you can hear, that's super boring. So you will start adding notes in between just because it's boring. But you want to get to the point where it is boring first, because it's boring, because it's predictable, because you know where the notes are, right? So then you go like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So you start adding more and more notes naturally. That might even be a better way to start this than, you know, what I said in the beginning, where you're like, okay, just count 8 notes in between and do that. And this is very sort of separated from the blues style now, obviously. This is just you finding the notes. But that's the way that I would go about it. And this, you know, works for any progression. You can, you know, do whatever progression you want, and it's still the same idea. And this is great ear training as well, because you're going to find favorite notes that, like, oh, if I'm in a minor key, right, then I might love the minor third on the 1 chord, but maybe when I go to the flat 7 major chord, maybe I'll really enjoy going to, which is the third of that chord, but it's the 9th in the overall key. Or you might find that, you know, maybe you really like the root note on that chord, maybe you like the 4th, maybe you like the whatever. So you're gonna find your favorites, and you will also find notes that don't work, even though they're technically part of the key. So for example, if you have the 1 chord here, and then you go to the 5 minor chord, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna play the 9th now, but that won't work, because you will have this sound. Technically it's part of the scale, but you will have the flat 9, which pretty much always sounds like shit over a minor chord. That won't sound nice. I mean, you can use it as a passing note, but overall it's not a great sound. So what happens is that the more you do this, you're going to find that over your favorite chord progressions, you're going to find your favorite notes that not necessarily have to be part of just the triad. Yeah, no, I agree. I love I love the sharp 11 as well, but the thing is, it won't work on every chord. I mean, if you're in minor, and you go to the flat 6 chord, then that is a great sound we have. But it won't work. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, these also are my major chords, I'm gonna chuck the sharp 11 in, and it will sound like crap. So, and most 9s will work, except the one, if you're in natural minor, the one built on the 2 chord, but that's gonna be a diminished chord, you're reading, or a half diminished, so you don't really hear that much anyway. But the 5 minor chord can sound kind of crappy. Sounds good over when you play. This is a dominant chord though, because then then it's a good spicy. Hey Patrick. But anyway, this is quite a deep subject, right, to go through, and it takes a lot of work. But anyone can start wherever they're at, and also think, if you can really get the 1, 3, and 5 down over any chord that you're improvising over, then you're going to be way ahead of the game anyway, because that most great melody is going to be built on the root third or the fifth. So basically, the higher up you get in the ladder, so once you get beyond the seventh, especially, you have 9, 11, and 13. That's where you get more of the expensive chords. So like it's gonna sound jazzier the higher up you get, because you're less defining. So anyway, I'm here to practice, not yapping. You ask any questions you want, but I might get into the whole thing. I mostly do that when I just, you know, fucking around with licks or whatever. If I do just normal scale practice, I would just do it focusing on the transition time. But it's great for, you know, working on any type of lick. So this one. So let's see. Hey, Pantera. Thank you so much, man. Hope everything is good. Yeah, so I just came back. I haven't streamed in like 2 weeks because I came back from going to Thailand for the first time with the family. It's an amazing trip, but no guitar for almost 2 weeks, so I'm feeling a bit rusty. That's a good exercise actually for alternate picking, because anytime you have an odd number across two strings, it's gonna screw with your picking. So you can't only be used to switching strings on an upstroke or a downstroke, whatever is your preference. You might still have a preference, but you should be comfortable with both, right? So this is a great exercise to do that. So you can take any two notes on this string and one note here, or vice versa. It's good to work on both, but basically go down. So I'm just going 7, 8 on E minor here, 7, 8 on the B string, and then 10 on the E string. And just strict alternate picking. So it's going to be down, up, down. So I'm going to switch on inside picking first. Right? But then the second time around, since it's an odd number, it's going to be up, down, up. So it becomes outside picking. So that's a really good one to work on. And of course, you can just do what I did and move it diatonically. It's just less boring. So. And you can turn it around as well. Okay, tile, I guess. Hi John, I'm working through your alternate picking course and I've noticed one of my flaws is strong muting in fast licks, especially when progressing with multiple strings. And if you use strong muting, what do you mean by that? As in muting every note like that? Or do you mean muting as in not getting this? As in, So basically muting for the sound of the muted notes, or do you mean muting the strings that you're not playing? If you could clarify that. So strings you're not playing, you mean you get noise. If that's the case, I definitely have a video for you. I can find, yeah, there we go. Give this a try. So that video goes through that in detail, but basically TLDR would be that you kind of create a tunnel for the string that you want. So when you're on this string, low E string, I don't need my right hand at all, because everything is muted by the side of this finger. Then when I go up here, you can either do the right hand or just hit the tip of the low E string like this. So, and then as you move on, and then as you move on to the D string, now you need the right hand to mute the low E string. And you just do that as you would do palm mutes, so just lightly touching the string. And some people get confused because I say that, you know, I advise people to not become lazy with your left hand or your fretting hand. You want the same amount of attacks in both hands. If I'm picking this, I don't want to keep this finger down and just move these fingers, because it's going to be not a one-to-one relationship with your picking hand. But then you're like, well, if I'm muting with the index finger, how can I remove it? Thing is, with all these noises that you get, if I do this, I haven't touched any of the strings here now, right? But it's this sympathetic ringing because of the vibrations, but that doesn't build up in 1 second. So you can go, if I play this, even though I'm technically not on the string here, but as soon as I put this finger, play with this finger, every string higher in pitch from this finger, meaning, you know, thinner string, will get muted, so that it never gets that build up. And the same thing goes with the right hand. So very important thing to work on, though. So Hey, Chris, wasn't it yesterday? Been away on a trip. It's a bit rusty guitar-wise. Haven't played. Well, I've been playing now for a couple of days since I came home, but haven't played for almost 2 weeks, which is probably the longest break I've had in several years. Yeah, went to Thailand for the first time with the family. It's like a 12-hour flight. Had a great time though, so it was really cool, but no guitar. Anyway, I'm just about done now with the stream for today, so if anyone has any last questions, put them in now so I can hopefully have time to give a reply. Yeah, it's George Bellis thing that I picked up. Sweet Widdly Widdly. Hey Thomas, great to see you, man. Also, just in case anyone missed it, you have the link in the bottom here, but the practice room is free now. Not the pro one, but the normal one with the most people. And then if you want extra help, you can go to the pro one, but you should definitely join. Actually, I can combine that as more questions, then I'm gonna go for today and be back tomorrow.